second baseman Jonathan Shoup, who was pretty good, pretty cheap in fantasy last year. He raised his OPS from 598 and 14 to 788 last year, but he only played about half the season. Around struggles with his knee, had an injury and stuff. But there are a few breakout candidates in Boston, obviously, including catcher Blake Swihart, switch hitter, pretty good bat, but as far as any awards, and I posted these earlier, as far as individual awards, maybe out of players coming out of the AL East, you got Marcus Stroman, 24 years old. I think he's ready to lead the staff. After that knee injury, I think if he stays healthy, he's a Cy Young candidate. And as far as AL MVP, I think you got to look at Machado, period. So there's a quick little AL East preview for you. We'll get into some props as far as, over-under on most strikeouts by a pitcher this year. I like the under there. Over-under on how many, the over-under is 17.5 on a pitcher, the most losses for a pitcher. 17.5. The over is plus 150. I like the over. I think someone on that Cincinnati or Colorado staff, although maybe not Colorado because you get a lot of runs in the late innings that end up being no decisions, but definitely Cincinnati. I think you might get someone that gets closer to 20 losses there, so take a look at those two. But as far as tonight, we got one basketball game tonight, pretty good one. You got George Washington going up against Valpo tonight. Two, pretty defensive-oriented teams, but both teams can shoot too, and they've proven it. Valpo, one point favorite here. They come in off of a good win against BYU, 2-point win. And earlier in the tournament, they blew out St. Mary's at home, and they handled Florida State as well. They come in, they held St. Mary's to 44 points, which was pretty impressive. This George Washington team, however, just played San Diego State, another really good defensive team. They had a really good first half. They only scored 30 points in the second half. They got to 65, but that's no small feat against San Diego, whether it's on the road or at home. They also beat Florida, putting 82 points up on them, and then they beat Monmouth, putting 87 up on them, neither of which really great defensive teams. They did lose to St. Joe's in the conference tournament, 86-80, so they've been putting some points up. Offensive efficiency numbers for them have been pretty damn good, but same for Valpo. It should be an interesting matchup, a grind-out type matchup. You talk about teams on short rest. Valpo, much more experienced in this spot this year. They've played 12 games where they were playing with 1 day or less rest this year. 14-1 straight up in this spot. 10-2 ATS. You talk about a line, only 1 point. You really can, take away the ATS numbers and look at that 14-1. Pretty impressive. You look at George Washington this year. 4 games where they played 1 day or less. They're 2-2 straight up, 2-1 ATS. One of those games did not have a line. In those games, the under 10-3, whereas in the Valpo, the under 14-8. So 10 to the defense sort of hangs around in that second game. It seems like Valpo's defense sort of, is tough to prepare for some teams, I guess, on short rest. Not necessarily saying that everybody they played were also on short rest, but usually in conference, in that conference anyway, quick turnarounds over the weekend. So Valpo, a little bit of an edge as far as spot-wise, but you look at talent-wise, fairly even. Offensive rebound, defensive rebound ratios, Valpo probably has a slight edge on the boards, I would say, but it's not as much as you might think. As far as fouls, Valpo fouls a lot. They also get to the line a lot. George Washington doesn't get to the line quite as much as them, but they do foul. So look for Valpo to probably hold the edge in free throw attempts as well. 3-point shooting, when it comes to that, I would say, I don't know. It's pretty much a coin flip, really. As far as attempts, they both really, maybe Valpo a few more, but they are, not by much. We're talking 22-19, basically. Defensively, out on the perimeter, pretty equal as well. This one is tough for me. I think Valpo probably wins this game. I don't have a client play on it or anything like that. Valpo probably wins it. I'd like to play the over. The only thing I worry about is a close game where you're in the 60s, and because of that, maybe some fouling at the end, you sort of get screwed on. Otherwise, it's really tough to go against that 14-1 number for Valpo on quick turnarounds. Where you're not really laying a point. I know there's a lot of people on Valpo. I think it's the most popular bet game on Scores and Odds, according to Scores and Odds. So that does say something, and the line's not really rolling with it. You look at that line, 62% of the money is on Valpo. The line's starting to creep up to 2.5 now. Money line wise, 83% on Valpo, 76% of the money on the over, and it's staying strong at 133. So that also says something. But like I said, I'd like to go with Valpo here probably, but what do I know? What's up to everybody on the chat box? Mandu, Eugene Ra, what's up? What's up to everybody else? If you got any questions or anything you want me to go over, let me know. Be glad to figure it out. My question is, if you're an NBA executive and you get a phone call from the LA Lakers looking to trade our rat boy over there, do you take the call and do you make the trade? And how do you think that a new team he gets traded to, do you think he'll be okay there? Because from what I'm hearing is the kid basically still acts like he's 14. I don't know how much, is it his fault, but still a young kid. Them two were obviously, if you don't know, they were roommates on the road. Why they don't have their own rooms? They're the LA Lakers and they're millionaires, but supposedly he was mentoring him. Some weird stuff going on there. Not a very good job mentoring him, obviously, but the whole situation, just a really, really weird situation there. Question is, do you take D'Angelo Russell on your team? The Celtics would love to do it, but the Celtics and Lakers aren't making a deal. That just won't happen. Maybe you look at Jimmy Butler. Maybe you look at Jimmy Butler in Chicago. Why not just get rid of Nick Young? Yeah, that's another good point, Bottom line is, it's just not going to work out. It's not going to work out the way it is. It's just too much drama, which is crazy. And the fact that the fans are booing them, booing him every time he touched the ball, I don't know. It was wrong to do, but who are we to really judge these guys' private life, and who are we to, really just ostracize this kid for one mistake that he made when he was just really playing around? I don't think he had negative intentions around it. It was stupid, but at the same time, he's human. He's a kid. Let's not, the media and fans love to just rip apart people, spin them out until there's nothing left, and it's just vicious. Let the kid be. Let them hash it out. No need for everybody in the world to really, just bash this kid, in my opinion. Do I want him on my team? I don't know, but I'm just saying, at some point, it is sports, and the kid is a kid. Leave him alone a little bit. But hey, what do I know? What do I know, right? Big day in the NHL, and we'll get back to NCAA basketball in a bit, but let's go over to the NHL, where we got a ton of games going on today. Hopefully we can have some success there like we did yesterday with Anaheim, and we got some free plays to give out. We got some stuff to talk about. Ways to bet it is on you. A couple teams to stay away from also we'll talk about, but we got a couple client plays, and we'll skip over those games. But Columbus at the Islanders, a good way to bet this game, I'll tell you, because Islanders are 210, total sitting at 5.5. If I was to bet this game, I would probably take New York Islanders team total over. Okay, can someone tell me? I'm assuming it's 3.5 at plus money. That's what I'm assuming. But the Islanders have a lot of success against this Columbus team. This Columbus team also not scoring very much lately, but a few ways you could probably play this, and it's a free play. I'm not saying, to go crazy like the Anaheim play. Just saying the Islanders, just to recap, just the last, 7-8 times they play a lot. The Islanders scored 3, 5, 3, 4, 4, 3, 6, 5 goals against Columbus in their last few games. 7-1-0-2 overall in their last 10 against them. Pretty strong numbers against an Islanders team that, playing pretty decent. They just beat Carolina back-to-back games, for what that's worth. I don't know. They lost to Philly. They seem to be losing a little bit to these playoff teams, but beating up on good competition. So maybe you want to talk about throwing them in there. Back to the chat box here. Talking back about Russell. Mamadou says, I think Russell should just stay on the Lakers, live with them. Look at Boogie Cousins on the Sacramento Kings. Yeah, the Celtics will be looking for Boogie Cousins. I agree. If you guys don't remember, if you're not old enough or whatever, when Shaq was playing there with Kobe, and Kobe was cheating on him out in Utah cheating on his wife out in Utah, he ended up, getting caught because Shaq sort of ratted him out. He ended up having to buy his wife a $5 million ring and that whole thing. But they coexist for a while, so, it is possible. Let's see. Put Nick and Russell in the octagon under a card. Yeah, it could be Derek Fisher and Matt Barnes. Yeah. Speaking about that, Derek Fisher comments and says, yeah, he didn't address the team about it. He didn't address either of them about it, which I found weird. You should have brought him into a room, let them talk about it. I get it, he's an ex-player and he wants them to figure it out, but they are kids. You do control the team. You need to control something. You got to get some communication going there. Manu says 2.5 team total for the Islanders for me. Okay, yeah, if you get the team total at 2.5 and it's less than minus 150, which I don't think it would be, I would take that. Eugene says local has 3.5 plus 120. Yeah, like I said, not bad. Maybe you want to play the minus 1.5, not sure, but not a bad way to go there. Islanders, like I said, a lot of offensive success against them. Nashville, Pittsburgh. This is a tough one. Nashville sort of got screwed this week. They have a young kid that played on the front lines in the junior Olympic team that's still playing for Harvard now. That's a top 5 forward. He's an unbelievable forward. They signed him 3 years ago. He stayed in college. He was supposed to come back on the team this year. He opts for free agency, which is a weird rule in the NHL, so it sort of screws them. They were hoping for him going into the playoffs, but not so much. Hold on. Hey, bud, I'm live on the air if you didn't know, but I'll call you after. That was my buddy from Montreal, actually. He's telling me about this story. So he screwed over them, blah, blah, blah. Long story, he's a good kid. But either way, Nashville lost 2 in a row after winning a few. Pittsburgh, one of the hottest teams in the league, rolling right now. Where do you lean towards this one? It's a tough one for me. And by the way, with the Islanders, maybe you want to put them in a parlay with somebody else we talk about, too. That's a way to go. I would expect Pittsburgh to get the job done here, but Nashville's been playing pretty tough. But Pittsburgh has done well, although last time Nashville visited Pittsburgh, they got the job done there. Tough one for me. I think it could go either way depending on it. Maybe the under as well at 5.5 could be a spot also. Toronto going to play Buffalo. We got a client play in this one, so we'll skip over that. And then the Rangers at Carolina, also a client play in that, so we'll skip over that one. New Jersey going into Florida. Florida right now playing pretty decent. I don't know. New Jersey, same thing. 2 very boring teams. I don't have much on this one. I would tend to lean towards the over, but God forbid playing the over in a New Jersey game is brutal, so probably skip over that. Montreal and Tampa Bay, you talk about Montreal, terrible season for them after losing Carey Price early in the season, and they're without Subban. Both actually traveled down to Florida with the team for this trip. Not going to play, but sort of getting back involved. Looked like Price could make a couple starts before the season is over there. Tampa Bay should just kick their ass today, plain and simple. They should just get the job done today. Tampa Bay playing very well. Montreal just wants this season over with, obviously. Defense has played horrendous.